and welcome back. I'm Rachel and you're watching Kalkine TV live from Sydney. This is the last show of the day, the last trade. So let's get straight to today's market closing commentary. Today, IT and industrials drag ASX 200 down. Bingo zooms up 6.25% on an acquisition deal. Despite technology firms lifting Wall Street shares on Monday, the IT sector traded lower today and was the worst performing sector for the day, followed by industrials and others. 9 of 11 sectors trading in the red. Materials were upbeat in today's trade on the back of gains in iron ore miners and steel makers. By the end of today's trade, ASX 200 dropped 23.10 points and traded at 7,022.50, down by 0.33%. Now let's take a look at some other important market updates. Asian shares struggled for direction. That was ahead of the Federal meeting. Asian shares declined on Tuesday ahead of the Federal Reserve meeting. Asia Pacific's MSCI's broadest index outside Japan dipped by 0.14%. Chinese shares remained little changed, with Tokyo shares trading 0.11% lower. After major oil producers stood firm by their demand forecast, oil rebounded in the Asian market. However, the risk is still there due to the unprecedented surge in COVID-19 cases in the world's third biggest oil importer, India. Brent crude increased by 0.29% to $65.84 per barrel, and US crude was up by 0.26% to $62.07 a barrel. Investors are keeping a tab on the Fed meeting on Wednesday. It is anticipated that the US central bank would confirm to maintain its easy monetary policy to support the economic recovery. After surging nearly 10% on Monday, Bitcoin traded flat at $53,851 On Monday, the most popular cryptocurrency surged after 5 straight days of bears hammering the cryptocurrency. JP Morgan Chase is eyeing to provide a managed Bitcoin fund. This news boosted the prices further. Ether also remains steady at $2,514. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the latest highlights from Australia now. Despite national goals to accelerate vaccine rollout amongst most people, New South Wales is first focusing on frontline workers and vulnerable people. The state decided that most healthy elderly people in their 50s and 60s will not get the vaccine jab next week. On Tuesday, New South Wales reported 12 new cases. They were acquired from overseas. As per reports, a recently returned traveller got infected within Sydney's hotel quarantine system. Moving on now to travel bubble news. New Zealand and Western Australia flights are put on hold after the COVID-19 outbreak in the state of Perth. The opening of the Trans-Tasman travel bubble since the 19th of April saw a surge amongst the travellers to across the shores and to meet their loved ones after more than a year since the closure of the borders. At last, flyers got a chance to dust off their passports and travel on green zone flights. This was without having to worry about the quarantine rules. However, the flights between the two countries of New Zealand and Western Australia, which for example is Perth, they have been put on hold since the eruption of COVID-19 cases in the city. Mark McGowan, who is the West Australian Premier, announced a lockdown in Perth and Peel for 3 days. This started on Friday, and the residents were allowed to venture out of their homes for just the necessities. For example, that's just for work, indispensable shopping, healthcare, and also for exercise. Following the announcement, an Air New Zealand flight had been cancelled. This was scheduled to leave for Perth on Friday night. Both New Zealand and also the Australian health officials were completing a risk assessment. Till then, there's been a pause on the travel bubble between New Zealand and Western Australia, and this outcome will depend following the announcement from the state government. Now we're coming up to quite a big update. Palladium surged to record highs on Monday amid ongoing supply concerns and robust demand. Palladium traded at $2,903,000 per ounce on the 27th of April 2021 at 4 a.m. in the morning after registering an all-time high of $2,941 per ounce. The metal is used in the automobile industry for catalytic converters to reduce emissions from automobiles. The stringent vehicle emission standards in China and Europe has increased the demand for palladium and buoyed its prices to record levels. Let's move on now to the shares that are buzzing by the market close. First off, let's talk about Race Oncology. They shared their March 2021 quarterly activity report, wherein it highlighted its three-pillar strategy. And that continued to demonstrate effective leverage of the company's legacy credentials in breast cancer and also in acute myeloid leukemia. Race Oncology also reported outside returns against Palladium, where bisantrene is being advanced as a potent inhibitor of the fat mass and obesity associated with protein. Race Oncology also shared that as of March 2021, they have held cash and equivalents of 6.47 million Australian dollars. This is compared to 5.58 million Australian dollars on the 31st of December 2020. Race Oncology mentioned its shareholders grew from 3,425 at the 31st of December 2021 to 8,990. They were at the 31st of March 2021. They did see Race Oncology shares dip by 2.154%. Moving on now to real estate firm Primewest has formed a joint venture with a fund advised by BlackRock Real Assets and has successfully exchanged contracts to buy Perth Office Tower 140 St George's Terrace, with settlement likely for late June. 140 St George's Terrace is a high-quality 30,000 square metre A-grade office building at the epicentre of Perth CBD. PWG will provide project services, property management and leasing services to the JV and will provide a co-investment stake consistent with other institutional real estate mandates. Primewest shares dipped by 0.685%. Digital Wine Ventures shared its series of epic surges in the March quarter, and they also provided a summary of the activity undertaken in the three-month period ending 31st of March 2021. Wine Depot processed a total of 29,174 orders in the March quarter. That's up 627% on the same quarter last financial year. The total number of cases shipped over the quarter set a record at 61,939. That's up 696% on the third quarter of financial year 2020. Wine Depot business generated total revenue of $768,458 for the quarter ending 31st of March 2021. Digital Wine Ventures in the March quarter partnered with Vivino mobile wine app and the largest online wine marketplace. Also, DW8 entered into MOU with eBay. Digital Wine Ventures shares were up by 1.724%. Now let's look at the share price of BlueScope Steel. They soared as much as 8.8% to $23.99, its highest since October 2008. The company expects second half underlying EBIT between $1 billion and $1.08 billion. That's up from the previous estimate of between $750 million and $830 million. BlueScope Steel has reported a hike in outlook due to a sharp rise in steel prices since the last outlook, as well as improved domestic demand and improved result from the building products segment. Business has gone from strength to strength, benefiting from strong spreads, prices and demand, shared BlueScope Steel. It was among the top 10 percentage gainers in the ASX 200 benchmark index on Tuesday. Towards the market close, BlueScope Steel shares were up by 1.587%. The ticker code for BlueScope Steel is ASX BSL. Well, that's all for now at Kalkine TV. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. live from Sydney. Till then, stay safe and have a great evening.